Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast started by two Formula One enthusiasts. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your Strawberry Fields Forever host, Luigi. And today we're taking you back to the third part of the 1967 season. So let's go.
All right. I think even I'm going to have trouble linking Strawberry Fields Forever to Formula One.
Well, yeah, I might too. Obviously, the song came out in 67, hence the reason.
Yep.
But I'm going to say that the Le Mans race in the car park was like, we talk about a racetrack in a car park. There's probably fields on either side of that car park. And I'm sure there's some wild strawberries in those fields.
I'll only give you that because it's France. But that is really tenuous there.
It's better than the time travel French officials delaying the transporter.
Yes.
So it's got more chance of being accurate than that. So yeah.
The bar's quite low there, Louis, though.
Yeah. But it's a good song, and those of you that know the Beatles, I'm a big Beatles fan, and I wouldn't say that's my favourite song.
I was going to say these aren't
in the top 20.
Yeah, okay.
20, yeah.
We're still not in the era of your favourite Beatles, though, are we?
We're 67. We're getting there because I like the late 60s.
You like late 60s, yeah.
Yeah, late 68, 69. That's when it starts getting interesting, you know. So yeah.
All right.
So we're up to the sixth race of the season, the British Grand Prix. This race has always been hit and miss. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's not very good. So it's not like the Monza Grand Prix where we're almost guaranteed a good race.
Yes.
Always good. So let's see how this race at Silverstone goes. So it's the 15th of July, 80 laps. 21 drivers, 4x3x4 grid formation, and warm and dry weather. So after the disappointment of the French Grand Prix, you may recall Lotus were 1-2 and had their double crown wheel pinion issue.
Yes.
Yeah. Colin Chapman, okay, I don't know if crown wheel's linked to the gearbox, but Colin Chapman personally took the gearbox back to the factory in Germany to have them modified.
What? Again?
Yeah.
It is so weird that team owners go themselves to get this done.
Yeah.
Haven't they invented delegation yet?
I know.
Is that not a thing?
And why didn't he take the crown wheel pinion thing with him at the same time? You know, so it's weird about the delegation thing. Like, remember we've seen, was it Brabham?
Yes.
Went back to another country overnight during a race weekend.
Yes.
And wasn't there a time when Jim Clark and Chapman went somewhere?
Yes, definitely. We thought they were on a junket, but they went to get some part done. Yes. Yep.
I personally think this is about Colin Chapman. Like, the Lotus had a bad reputation. It wasn't like hearsay. Everyone could see the Lotus breaking down all the time. And he was probably trying to show his drivers how serious he was about giving them a reliable car.
How committed. And he was committed.
He's committed. He has done reliable cars before. How could Clark have won 63 and 65? So he can do it, but he was trying to show, look, Clark, I'm going to bring 63, 65 back. Watch me go. I'm going to go there now. You watch me. And he just goes and collects all the receipts, shows Clark all the flight tickets. Yeah, I don't think Clark was like that, but this is all conjecture, of course. I'm surprised Mike Lang didn't say it. But
I'm surprised too. Well, it was I think he didn't make a thing of it because I think it was normal back then.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so to the race, Clark and Hill again set the pace during the final practice session, but Hill's car was badly damaged after a rear suspension collapsed, literally as he came into the pits. So the grid was set, however, with Clark on pole, Hill second, Brabham third, and Holm rounding out the front row in fourth place. So the Lotus team, because of that incident with the rear suspension, they had to rebuild Hill's car before the start of the race and strengthen Clark's so the same issue did not occur during the race.
Okay, there we go. So they're learning, Louis. They're fixing the same problem in both cars.
Yeah,
it's good to hear.
Impressive. Yeah.
Impressive. They've got some basics down.
Yeah. So the Lotus team worked frantically, and Hill's car was only ready just in time to take his place on the warm-up lap before lining up on the dummy grid.
That's a close shave for Hill. Yeah. I wonder what that car felt like to drive. I mean, it must have been very different to the car that he put second on the grid.
Yeah, when you play with suspension,
Yes.
the
They
car
had to rebuild the whole thing.
Yeah, that's right. Because when he had the suspension, he said the car was damaged. You're right. Good point. So at race start, the 2 green and yellow Lotuses roared off into the lead ahead of the green and golds of Brabhams.
Now, that's confusing. How different is yellow from gold? We need a paint expert.
Yeah. Paint F1 podcast episode. There you go.
I have seen pictures. It's not like we've got a book that shows us all the cars that have won races in each of the years, and the gold is just a little bit darker. That's it. It's a little bit heavier, but they look remarkable. I mean, you'd have to go by the numbers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was going to say that knowing Lotus and how they have a view on making the car as light as humanly possible, I'm assuming that Lotus went with the lighter yellow because lighter yellow, less paint, lighter car. How's that sound?
Yes, I think that would be very good conjecture there.
Yeah.
Even just looking at I mean, they look a lot similar. The cars look very similar.
They look similar. Yeah, when I see pictures on Facebook history posts, I have to really look carefully to tell which is which. And if they're black and white, you can't tell at all. Yeah, so one of the green and gold Australian Brabham cars in the hands of Holm had a bad start, but Brabham himself tucked in behind the Lotus pair with barely a second separating the 3 leading cars. On lap 2, Brabham passed Hill and was now splitting the Lotus pair, but Clark began to pull away, thus dashing any hopes that the Australian had about taking the lead in this race.
Don't forget, though, this is Lotus, and as we've seen, they're not always famous for their reliability. Yeah. I also like how we are emphasising the Australian era here, Luigi. I don't think the next one happens until like the 80s.
Yeah, so I guess we've got to milk it while we can, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to have a nice little drought coming up.
Right.
I mean, this isn't a spoiler. Jack Brabham's not young at this stage.
No. Well, we saw that last season when didn't he like have a go at the press? Yeah.
The walking stick. Yeah. Because he's like, I think he's 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, so remember, Holm was behind these guys. Holm was working his way back through the field after a lackluster start, and eventually he moved up to 4th place, settling in right behind Jack Brabham, as Hill had since regained 2nd place back from Brabham. So the order was Clark, Hill, Brabham, and Holm. So you got your Lotus 1-2 there. Some drama followed as Holm passed his team leader, and at the same time, Hill took the lead from Clark. So 2 pretty big changes.
Well, big moves by the number 2s.
Yeah.
And no team orders in play, it seems.
And number 2s meaning your opinion of Hill.
Yeah.
Not Mike Lang.
Oh, come on. You have to say that at this stage, Clark would be number 1 ahead of Hill.
Well, I mean, I guess he's in the running of the championship and Hill's nowhere to be seen.
Nowhere,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, so you're right. I guess, yes, he's number 2, yeah. So things stayed the same up front until lap 55. This is turning out to be one of the less exciting Silverstone races. It's one or the other, nothing in between, right? So things stayed the same up until lap 55 when Hill was reduced to a crawl as a bolt dropped out of his rear suspension, causing the left rear wheel to turn in awkwardly.
Oh, is that a bad mistake by that mechanic? I know they were in a rush, but a loose bolt. Come on.
Yeah.
Surely you tighten the bolts.
Yeah, I mean, they were under time pressure.
They were.
Yeah. And they didn't have the excuse of a H16 engine to say they were spending too long changing the 16 spark plugs. So, yeah.
Filling up the 9 fuel tanks.
Yeah. So Hill pitted and rejoined in 7th, but 10 laps later he had to retire when his engine broke. Clark was having a completely untroubled run, however, and in the closing stages eased off to allow Holm to reduce the gap to 12 seconds at the finish line.
See, he knows if you don't need to push, you don't. Don't push because anything could go wrong.
Yeah,
that gives him his 5th British Grand Prix win in the last 6 years.
Yeah, did Mike Lang dial that up, or was that something you knew?
No, I did.
Wow,
I'm all over Clark's.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. In fact, you could have, if you were around in the 80s, you could have volunteered your writing services for
could have.
Mike Lang and say, Mike, can I just do the Clark
Yes,
era, please?
that's right. Exactly.
So Eamon came third and Brabham fourth.
Surprised Brabham was fourth. He must have been nursing some issues. But Holm, again, very reliable.
Yeah, just keeps coming second. And he's only had one race win.
Yes. I think there's a stat in there somewhere, but we might get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so Holm stretches his lead. He's now on 28 points. Jim Clark and Jack Brabham. Well, Jim Clark jumps up the standings, but he joins Brabham in second on 19 points. Chris Amon's third on 15, and Pedro falls down to fifth on 14. The Brabham Repco, though, they're on 33 points. Lotus-Ford, 19, with Cooper Maserati on 19, and Ferrari is fourth on 15 points.
Okay. And I mean, with Clark second and Brabham second on 19, they are 9 points behind Holm. So Holm's got a solid lead, like a win.
Well, so but it's only race 6. I mean, we've still got 5 races to go.
Yeah. I'm not saying the championship's in any way over. I was just saying he's got a good lead, but he wouldn't think he's got one hand on the trophy. That's for sure.
No. Not with drivers like Brabham and Clark behind him.
And Hill. To put that in for
Where's Hill? He's nowhere.
I know, but he's there to take points away.
He's true. That's true.
And he was up there. He was actually up there in this race until his car broke down. Yeah. So, let's give him a little bit of credit. And Damon Hill could be listening, so we've got to get his support. So we're up to race 7 of 11. So we're at the German Grand Prix. So this is at the Nurburgring, the infamous Nurburgring. This is the 6th of August, 15-lap race. As you may recall, this race is, I think, depends on the track. It was about 8 minutes a lap. 25 drivers and a 4x3x4 grid formation, and the weather was warm and sunny. So this race is interesting. Why they're 25 drivers? Because the previous races had less than 20. So we're going to get to that in a second. So like the previous year, the organisers decided to hold an F2 race at the same time as the F1 race.
Like, this is a really long track, and they do that so that people don't get bored watching dead air. Like, there's no cars on the track. So it's like the opposite of Monaco. They needed more cars to fill her up.
Yeah. Imagine if Monaco opened it up to the F2 field.
My gosh.
They wouldn't handle it.
No, that would be mayhem.
Snap. Yeah. As a result, the organisers invited 9 entries for the F2 race, with notable entrant being none other than Jacky Ickx driving for the Matra team.
That's such a cool racing name. Jacky Ickx.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently he had a big ego to match.
Yeah. He's a Belgian.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little bit like Hercule Poirot, Luigi. He was Belgian, and he also had a huge ego.
Yes. And you know what? But I'm an Agatha Christie fan.
I know. Randomly, we're both Agatha Christie fans.
And Poirot is my favourite character.
Same with me. Miss Marple never did it for me.
No, Poirot's ego was just so hilarious.
Yeah, it was. It was good.
Good entertainment. And Ickx definitely inherited that. I don't want to say Belgium trait. That's probably very unfair.
Especially since Poirot's like a fictional character.
Yeah. In fact, there's something very funny about Poirot. I think they've done studies on, famous people from countries.
Yes.
And Poirot tends to be the number one famous person for Belgium. And it's not even a real person. It's a fictional person by a British author.
Yeah. Poor Jacky Ickx. He's actually Belgium, and he doesn't rate as a famous Belgian. That's
as much as Poirot.
His ego would have taken a hit there.
Yeah. So now note that there were some new corners that had been added to this circuit since last year in an effort to reduce the speed and the approach to the pit lane. So a little bit of safety awareness,
Yes.
Yeah. So during the first practice session, Ickx went out and recorded a lap of 8 minutes 14 in his F2 car, which was actually 2.5 seconds in Clark's pole time from last year.
Wow. Okay. Easy to see how this guy ends up in F1, and maybe why he also had a healthy ego.
Yeah. and to be honest, I mean, I don't think either of us dug into this, but I don't know how much power variance there was between F1 and F2. you'd have to assume it would have been mercurial.
It would have had to be. Yeah.
So this is really a special effort. So the funny thing is, even on that first practice day, only one F1 driver was able to beat Ickx's time.
Wow.
And that was Holm, and Holm only did it by 0.5 of a second.
Hey, where did everyone else finish?
They all seem to have had mechanical issues, like Lotuses and the BRMs had all sorts of problems. And so that was, okay, maybe Ickx was a little bit lucky he was on the pace, and maybe, just maybe, he wanted to showcase himself. Yeah. And he certainly did
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we'd all do that. If you're in that F2 car,
for sure,
you want to let everyone know you're there because and at work, because everyone, for those of you that don't know, Ickx is about to be in Formula One, obviously.
Yes, obviously.
Yeah. So second practice session saw Hill crash heavily on the descent to Adenau. Probably not saying that right. So did you want to have a go?
No.
Okay. So luckily he wasn't injured, but the spare Lotus 49 he was driving was badly damaged, just like he did in the last race.
Gosh.
After needing to drive it around after his normal one had issues on the Friday. So, yeah.
Jeez. Hill is really not having a good year. Do you reckon he's regretting moving from BRM? Probably not.
No, I mean, come on. How much are we talking about
Stewart? Nothing. I know.
At least we're talking about Hill.
Yes. So, well, when we talk about Stewart, it's about his engine blowing up.
Or the surprise that he got sixth on the grid at Monaco.
That's right, exactly.
And that's it. I think he's got a couple of podiums this year, but they've been distant, absent ones in the background, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like he charged up or anything. He was probably surviving, driving one-handed and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
So pole position eventually went to Clark with Hillman second, then Stewart and Gurney. There you go, Stewart again. A little mention on the side.
Yeah. And where's Hill?
Well, you know, he's bashing his car around, as we know, and not necessarily his fault, but he's back in 13th.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Ickx had to be happy with pole on a separate grid for the F2 cars. So did they not let him start where he actually qualified? Normally they do.
I don't think so.
Normally I have the F1 book in front of me, but I don't have it in front of me. I should have done that. For the next episode, I'll have it ready.
Okay.
But, it's not a big deal, but normally they just let them slot in, don't they?
Yeah.
Like if the F2 guy's 10th, they start 10th. But the way
I reckon, the way this sounds, it sounds like they just bunched up all the F1 together and then had an F2 grid.
And he would have been annoyed because he'd have been faster than most of the cars in front of him. So he would have been a bit bitter. But he made his point, so there's no issues there. So the race saw a tremendous start with the superior acceleration of Clark's Hill just beating Holmes-Brabham into the first corner. Funny you think of the first corner when the lap is like nearly 8 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's like the first corner was almost irrelevant. Hill in the other Lotus, unfortunately, was pushed onto the grass as he jostled into the first corner, spun, and was only able to get going once again after the entire field flew past him.
Oh, Hill. What?
Yeah. He's sounding like, okay, this episode's probably not going to come out until mid to late 25.
Yeah.
I
know what you're going to say. You're going to say he's sounding like Perez.
Yeah, Perez in mid 24 Perez. Yeah, it sounds like Perez, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
People expected so much more from him, and okay. So it was Clark leading from home, then Gurney, with only 3 seconds separating the three cars. That's pretty impressive for how long these laps are. Then Brabham and McLaren followed 5 seconds further behind the leading trio, and then a small gap of 4 seconds where another gaggle of cars followed, which was Surtees, Stewart, and Amon. Then a big change took place on lap 4. So remember, how many laps was this race? Let me check. It's 15 laps. 15? So 4 laps is like a third of the way through the race. Just to put that in context, lap 4 sounds like the beginning of the race. It's not. It's like well into the race. The unfortunate Clark had to slow with a buckled front wheel plus a slow puncture in his rear tyre, and this forced the race leader to retire.
Oh, this Lotus is so delicate.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're sorting out every imaginable problem this season.
Yeah. I mean, this car has pace, though. It's in the lead.
But they keep inventing new things to break.
Yeah. I mean, I remember Ron Dennis in the 80s and 90s saying to finish first you have to finish.
Yes. Yeah. That's a very, very clever. That's very good. I like it.
Yeah. So by this time, by this time as in lap 4-ish when Clark went out, Gurney in his Eagle had overtaken Holm and was now leading the race. And Brabham was third and Stewart fourth.
What about Ickx?
Yeah, the cool Ickx name. Well, he was causing a sensation because Ickx was actually running in fifth overall ahead of many F1 cars.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really
Considering he had to start on a separate grid for the F2s, that's amazing.
Yeah, he really was in his zone, right?
Yeah.
Stewart was able to get past Brabham, but then came to a stop with a broken crown wheel and pinion.
Oh, gosh, not that again. Okay, now that's the new recurring problem.
Okay, I'm gonna say what it is. I have to say not detail, but I can just explain very simply what it is. You know when a car turns a corner,
yes,
and you've got your, let's just pretend we're thinking of the rear wheels just for the sake of the exercise. You're turning a left corner, right? Your left tire is turning at a different speed to the right tire because the right tire is having to go on the outside of the corner.
Yes.
You know, let's call that double the distance.
Yes, okay.
And the inside corner is half. So that crown and pinion thing enables that outside tire to go at a faster pace to stay in alignment with the inside tire.
Right.
So the reason why I'm explaining that, and I'm sorry to be, it's not even that technical, if you know what I mean, but that's a fundamental for all cars. So why are they having so many problems with that now?
Right.
Like in 1967, why have we not heard crown pinion? Is it because of the engineer writer that Mike Lang got?
Like you say, maybe it's the speed. Like back in the day, like you say, a crown wheel and pinion's been around cars forever. Like that's how the wheels turn. But now it must be the speed. It must be.
They're just being pushed beyond their
limits. Exactly.
Yeah, they're not meant to be that much variability.
No.
They're not meant to be that fast. Yes. So, yeah. So with Stewart's retirement, this put Ickx up to third place.
Wow. And that's a good performance by that French team too, the Matra.
Yeah.
Because it's an F2 Matra.
I wish we had done more research in this, as I'd really like to know what the power difference is between the F1 and the F2 car. Like, we're going to give it like amazing credit, but maybe it deserves even more. Yes. You know what I mean? So, yeah. On lap 9, Eamon in his Ferrari F1 car finally caught and passed Ickx to take third.
I like how you have to say Ferrari F1 car.
Yeah. Like Enzo probably demanded that he take third. You know, there's probably a pit board out that said, you must get third or you're not driving this car anymore.
What's happened to Hill?
Well, his rear suspension collapsed and he was out of the race on lap 8. He's had a lot of suspension issues.
That is 6 retirements in 7 races so far this season.
Maybe at least he's in the running.
Crazy.
I mean, Stewart's probably outscoring him in that BRM.
Definitely. Well, at least Stewart's finishing the races.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So crazy. We thought the Lotus was past that unreliability stage, but I guess that's what a new engine does. But it seems like the new engine's causing all the other things to break. The engine has had a little bit of a problem, but not too bad, really. You know what I mean?
No, but it's only on Hill's car, not Clark's.
Yeah. Oh, it's a little bit on Clark's, but not as much.
Not as much, no.
Yeah. So back to the race on lap 12. What was it, 14 lap race or 15? Thereabouts.
15.
Ickx's amazing performance unfortunately came to an end when that little, well, I wouldn't say little, Matra probably is a small team, as his front suspension collapsed.
Oh.
So that's a real pity. So at the front, Gurney had stretched his lead over the Brabhams with victory in sight.
Big call, Louis. This is the 60s. Surely it's too early to say that. Even at the Nurburgring on lap 12, I feel like something's going to go down here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 3 laps to go is 8:16, about 24, 25 minutes. Remember?
Yes.
So it's not. He's not like on the last corner or anything.
No, exactly.
But Gurney's car, his drive shaft broke and cut through an oil pipe, thus ending his race. And he even had a 45-second lead at this point. So,
that is tragic.
So while he was inheriting this lead, he had it in the bag and he was holding. He was doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Gurney could only watch on as Holm took the lead and won the race by 38 seconds over his teammate Brabham and Eamon in the Ferrari third in the F1 Ferrari.
Wow. So this is the first championship race since 1962 in the French Grand Prix without a driver from the United Kingdom on the podium.
When I read that stat, I was just blown away.
Yeah.
It just showed how dominant the UK drivers were. I didn't realise it had been 5 years.
And it was a podium of 2 New Zealanders and an Australian.
Yeah. From colonies of Britain.
Yes, that's right.
So Britain is claiming this as a British podium.
Yeah, they probably played the British national anthem.
Yeah, they probably did. Yeah.
Okay, so to the standings, we have Denny Holm then on 37 points, Jack-Brabham on 25 in second, and Jim Clark and Chris Amon equal third on 19 points.
Wow.
And on the constructors, we've got Brabham Repco on 42 over Cooper Maserati on 21. That is so funny that they're up there. And the Lotus-Ford and Ferrari are on 19.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, that Lotus should not be in third. That Lotus should be knocking on the door of Brabham Repco, but it just can't land the car.
That Brabham Repco, like 19, like Denny Holm has 37 points.
Yeah. Versus Jack Brabham's 25. So he's got a real lead now. Now he'd be thinking about the championship.
Yes.
8, 9, 10.
Yes.
4 races. It can all still change, of course. 4 races, a lot of points. But the way he's driving, I mean, this is his second win of the season and his second win of his career at this stage. So he's doing a great job, really reliable driving. So, yeah. So up to the next race, race 8 of 11, the Canadian Grand Prix at Mosport. This race was on the 27th of August, 90 laps, 19 drivers, and a 3x2x3 grid formation, and it was a wet race, this one. Yeah.
And the first Canadian, sorry, I think I just took away your first line.
No, that's all right. But you can say it. Go for it.
Yeah, first Canadian championship race. It was always held as a sports car race since 1961.
Yeah. Do you want me to read out your bit?
Yeah, go on. We switched.
We do have a script, everyone, but it's a loosely held script.
Very loose,
Yeah.
Dot points.
So it was supposed to be a one-off celebration for Canada's 100 years of independence, but the popularity of the race would result in F1 returning to Mosport Park for 7 more years, and the Canadian Grand Prix still featured on the calendar even to this day. So it was never intended to be there ongoing. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's very cool. Yes, that is one hell of a popularity impact. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
For a country, and I don't know, like Canada probably wasn't really part of motorsporting history, really. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess they did have sports races, but yeah, F1.
And the interesting thing is I like the name Mosport as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mosport Park. I mean, we know that's obviously short for Motorsport Park.
Motorsport Park. Yeah.
But it's a cool name, so I'll give them points for that. And in current times, as we record this in mid-24, the Canadian Grand Prix is one of the really good races to watch. So
yes.
Not the same track, of course.
No.
Where is it now?
It's on the old. That's where they had the expo, wasn't it? Where is it
I keep forgetting the name of where it is.
Montreal.
Yeah, it's around the water. It's a pretty beautiful track area.
Is.
It looks a little bit like, makes me think of the Melbourne races. Melbourne's got that big water in the middle and all that stuff.
And it's usually wet there too, isn't it? It's weird weather, and they've got the Wall of Champions there.
That's right. Yeah.
We'll get to that. But anyway.
We'll get to that, yeah. I don't think the Wall of Champions gets reputation for like another couple of decades. But
Yeah.
Because it isn't the same track. So of interest is that we also see the debut of the all-new McLaren M5A. So this is where McLaren was filling in for the
Eagle
the Eagle car. And this is fitted with the new V12 BRM engine.
Oh, so they dodged the H16 bullet.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know what's going on. I wonder if I'm not sure if this at this stage, because we're not tracking the BRM as much as we were because they're not present as much. I'm not sure if that H16 is now being replaced by the V12.
The BRM as well.
Yeah,
that's what I
BRM
was thinking. It's funny that, a customer team gets to use the new engine and the actual works team has to stick with the H16.
Yeah. You'd think Stuart saying, "I want the
Yeah,
V12." If you're
exactly.
giving it to them, you're giving it to us.
Yeah,
So yeah.
exactly.
So the Honda team was absent for this race.
Unusual.
Mm,
It is not that far from Japan.
yeah. Interesting, hey? I guess Ferrari can Honda know they're not in the running for this championship, so they're doing a bit of a
Yeah,
Ferrari. Let's get our house in order. Let's focus on this
maybe.
or that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unusually, there were a number of untimed sessions amid the timed practice sessions for this race. And when all was said and done, Clark in the Lotus set the pole time, followed by Hill in the other Lotus in second, and Holm third in the Brabham.
Oh, now Hill is at least there with Clark. They're 1-2 on the podium. I mean, on
Mm,
the grid.
yeah. And this is showing the potential of that Ford-Cosworth,
Yes.
because you never saw this with the H16. That's what I'm trying to argue.
No, not at
So I
all.
think they knew the bones were good. So Eamon in the Ferrari was next, then Gurney in the Eagle lining up in fourth and fifth. So on race day, it was wet and miserable, and as the flag fell, Clark made another of his great starts, and at the end of the first lap, he had pulled out a healthy lead over Holm already. Then came Hill, Stewart, and Brabham.
Where did where did Stewart and Brabham line up?
Yeah, they didn't qualify too well, actually. So Stewart was ninth and Brabham was seventh.
Wow, so that's an impressive start by them. The wet
Yeah.
weather was already taking its toll, I guess. And those two we
Mm,
know are very good in the wet. I remember that
yeah.
race of Stewart's at
Yeah.
Spa, was it? And
Yeah.
yeah, he just blitzed it in the wet.
Yeah. And the wet always brings. I'm not saying the drivers that do well on the wet are just the best drivers, but there's a special talent and
Yeah.
skill,
Yeah,
and it really
absolutely.
shines, doesn't it? So lots of drivers were slipping and sliding, and even Clark did not look all that comfortable in the lead as Holm was able to overtake him on lap 4.
Wow. Home season so far has just been very consistent.
Yeah, and up there, like to pass Clark in the wet. That would go on the resume,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah. So Hill was also finding his Lotus a bit of a handful. So this Lotus clearly was not good in the wet, and was now receiving the close attentions of Brabham, who had overtaken Stewart on lap 2. So by lap 7, Brabham proceeded to then pass Hill and was now into third place. So he was really charging. He was the one that was 7th, right? It was the other one that was Stewart was
Yes.
9th. Yeah. However, by lap 20, Brabham's teammate Holm had by now built up a lead of over 24 seconds over
Wow.
Clark. So he was like a 1 point something seconds a lap faster. It's massive. McLaren in his new car was himself on a charge, and from 7th after a spin, he had passed Brabham, and was now closing in on Clark. I haven't said it for a long time, have I?
Yeah.
He was now closing in on Clark by an astonishing 4 seconds per lap.
Wow, that new car works.
Yeah.
Liking it, and he likes it in the wet.
Yeah, that's a good sign, isn't it? It shows the car's got, I don't know, good sensory feed or
Yes.
something. So on lap 22, McLaren moved up to second place. Not bad for the debut of that new car. Brabham himself was no slouch, though, as he had just about caught up to Clark. However, Brabham had his own threats, though, because Stewart had also gotten past Hill on lap 15, so that Lotus is really going backwards in the wet. And now Stewart was closing in on Brabham. Remember, Brabham passed Stewart a while ago.
Yes.
Just as Brabham was closing in on Clark.
Wow.
So this would have been a great,
Oh my gosh. It's like we know now of all these legends of the sport,
Yeah.
current and future world champions all dicing with each other in the wet. It's just good to see, good to hear.
And these, how there's some races you go, I'd like to go back in time and watch this one. I think this one I want to watch.
Okay.
Yeah. It just sounds really interesting. Though this would have been awesome to see these cars, like ebbs and flows in their car control in the wet, and it sounds like it's mixed conditions as well.
Yes, that always makes things interesting.
So finally on lap 16, Stewart passed Brabham just as the track was beginning to dry. So this is why I like this track, because it's mixture.
So which car will benefit from the most from the dry conditions?
Yeah, well, it seems like that Lotus is a dry weather car. Because remember, Holm had pulled out a bit of a lead on Clark, like 24 seconds or thereabouts. So as Clark was about to get past Stewart and Bruce McLaren in quick time, and suddenly he could use his power advantage to catch up to Holm. And at half distance, Clark was now only 12 seconds now behind the lead car of Holm. So he was closing the gap pretty rapidly. McLaren was still third, some 30 seconds behind, and Brabham fourth, having now overtaken Stewart.
Gosh, this is chaotic, this race. I can't keep up with all the overtakes.
Yeah.
So good to hear, though. These are the good old days.
Yeah. And this isn't even a Monza slipstreaming track.
No.
Yeah, these are just solid, interchangeable weather battling.
So where is Hill in all of this? You haven't mentioned him for a while.
Yeah. So Hill was running sixth, having been overtaken by Gurney. So he's sort of not really in the front running.
No.
He's in the background now, even with the dry weather, it seems. But Clark was obviously on the charge. So he finally had a lead change, though, because on lap 57, Clark caught and passed Holm. Remember, Holm had a big lead. So this dry weather Lotus, it's on fire. The two leaders switched places a couple of times before Clark capitalised on a Holm mistake and took back the lead as the rain started again.
Oh, can he win it from here? Will that Lotus hang together in the wet?
Why do you do this, Rosa? You have to ask, and you're setting it up for yourself. You know that.
I know.
Yeah, you've just got to be quiet and go, okay, yeah, just normal stuff, yeah. So on lap 67, when quite unexpectedly, Clark's engine died at the hairpin.
Oh, no. Well, Holm is a worthy winner of this race.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see them go to the end, but I think Clark would have controlled this one if he didn't have that issue. So then Holm needed – Holm needed – it's not over.
What?
I was just realising what I was reading. Holm then needed to stop for goggles and then a visor in the following lap. So Brabham, who was barely really mentioned except battling a little bit at the beginning and then falling away, was now in the lead.
Oh, that is such bad luck.
Yeah.
Who needs to stop for goggles and a visor?
Yeah. So McLaren then had to stop for a new battery, which dropped him to seventh. He was sitting about third, I think. And Stewart had to retire with a sticking throttle. Hill also had some drama, spinning on lap 74. He had to push start his car as the clutch had gone.
What? Okay. All right. I'm reeling here. Tell me where they all finished.
Yeah, it's a bit. That's why I think this chaotic race would have been great to watch, because Brabham ended up winning, a bit fortuitously because of Holm's goggle thing.
Yes.
Holm came second, so it's a Brabham 1-2 team. Brabham team 1-2. Gurney finished third, so that Eagle Westlake. I mean, we've lost 2 or 3 cars from ahead of him, but hey, third, he got on the podium, and our friend Hill fourth.
Wow. With all this drama, I think Ickx in the F1 or the F2 mantra.
Oh, was he in the F2 car or not?
He would have won this race.
Oh, really? Are you theorising? Or was he in the race?
I'm theorising.
You're theorising. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he would have won the race. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
All right. So on to the Drivers' Championship standings. We have Holm on 43 points, Brabham on 34, Chris Amon on 20, and Jim Clark on 19. So even with Hill's good finish, he's just nowhere.
And Clark's been on 19 for a long time. I remember Holm was on 27 and Clark was 19. That was a few races ago. So, and I think we've seen Clark retire from the lead just about every race since then.
Okay, and then the constructors, we've got Brabham Repco on 51, Lotus-Ford on 22, Cooper Maserati on 21, and Ferrari on 20.
Brabham's got the championship in the bag, the constructors anyway.
All right, well that's, I think we'll sort of call that the end, and we'll come back and wrap up season next time.
Okay. Thanks everyone, see you soon. Bye.
We have a Patreon.
Yay, we're a professional podcast now. So it means a lot to us if you are able to support the F1 Time Portal podcast.
For a small monthly fee, you not only get ad-free podcast content, you will also receive special episodes that are exclusively uploaded for our Patreon financial supporters.
We promise at least 2 additional exclusive episodes each month, aligned to the decade we are up to in the show.
And you will also be able to make suggestions about any special episodes you may want us to research and present. We can't promise that we can do all of them, but we will consider them.
So, if that sounds like an entertainment bargain to you, Go and sign up at patreon.com/F1timeportal today.
If you're enjoying our podcast, please tell your friends and non-F1 friends alike.
Yeah, and don't forget to rate us 5 stars or whatever highest is available on the podcast platform that you use.
We have a range of social media handles for you to connect with fellow listeners, so look up F1 Time Portal on all the usual platforms.
Or visit us at www.f1timeportal.com or email us at f1timeportal@gmail.com.
We would like to give credit to our primary reference materials, a series of books called Grand Prix by Mike Lang.
We also use many other written and digital references, which are in our show notes.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.